Raids Again was directed by Motoyoshi Oda. Please forgive me if I'm not pronouncing that correctly. And it was released in 1955, 1 year after the huge success of the original Godzilla movie. Once the original Godzilla movie released, it was a smash hit, and Toho immediately got to work on releasing a sequel. Almost just a year later, they released Godzilla Raids Again. Now, Godzilla Raids Again has a bit of a different reaction in the Godzilla community from what I've seen. I was doing a little bit of research just to see on how people actually view this movie, and it's one of the lesser liked Godzilla sequels. I was a little shocked by that because, spoiler alert, I actually really liked the movie. I dug it. Now, again, I didn't watch these growing up. I'm watching these as an adult in subsequential order. And I watched Godzilla Raids Again probably like a couple months ago with my girlfriend. And we both came away from it with pretty much similar opinions. I think I liked it a bit more than she did, but I really liked it. I thought it was a good movie. Now, just to get into the plot a little bit, this movie actually has a really cool idea going on with it. Whereas a lot of the other Godzilla sequels, Godzilla was just completely unkillable. You know, he's this indestructible force of nature almost in some of the other ones. But if you remember the first Godzilla movie, he dies. He gets killed by the oxygen destroyer. And in the sequel, they actually continue that. The Godzilla in this movie is not the Godzilla from the first. He is a new Godzilla. And, you know, he just looks the same and has the same powers. But they actually kept the idea from the first that Godzilla died, which I really appreciate because I think in retrospect, it actually makes the first movie even more impactful and makes the character of Dr. Serizawa even that much more impactful, right? And his decision, his sacrifice to die with the knowledge of the oxygen destroyer, this terribly powerful weapon that ended up, you know, actually killing Godzilla. So I really like that story decision. But this movie deals with these pilots. They crash land on this island, and they soon encounter Godzilla and newcomer Anguirus, who's basically like an ankylosaurus. And the movie is just these guys going on a tear. Godzilla and Anguirus fight each other, and then, you know, spoiler alert, Godzilla kills Anguirus, and then near the end, we're in the same position as the first Godzilla movie where we're like, how do we stop this guy, right? So I actually really like the design of Anguirus. I'm going to talk about him a little bit. I think he's really cool. I was aware that, you know, a lot of these Godzilla movies deal with Godzilla fighting another monster, but I did not know the second ever Godzilla movie had a monster battle in it. I was not aware of this until I watched it, and honestly, I think the fight is pretty awesome. I'm going to get into that first. So, you know, this is before, you know, the days of heavy CGI and all these crazy effects where you could do all these crazy fights. Obviously, the fight's not going to look like the modern day, like, Kong Godzilla movies where you have this amazing CGI and these amazing fight scenes. No, these are people in suits fighting, but honestly, they pull it off amazingly. And again, like I said with the first Godzilla, I actually think the black and white helps it. I really like the way the movie looks in the black and white. Now, the only like criticism I personally have of the fight is that a lot of the footage is just sped up to make it look a lot faster and a lot more destructive. But man, the bloody jaws of Godzilla after he bites through Anguirus' neck, I mean, it is great. It is a fantastic fight. And Anguirus, he comes back, of course, later in the series, so maybe he didn't actually die in this movie, and I'm just, you know, thinking that he did. Or maybe they're going to say he died and there was another Anguirus later like they did with Godzilla. But the point is, their battle, in my opinion, is fantastic. I mean, when you see the poster of the movie, Godzilla vs. Anguirus, you get that, like, live-up hype, right? Like, it lives up to the poster that you get with it, and I think it's pretty dope. But I will say this movie wasn't as well paced as the first Godzilla, at least in my opinion. I thought there were some pretty boring scenes. There's one in particular that I'll never forget where it's just these guys sitting around this like boardroom meeting type thing, and they're watching footage of the first Godzilla movie, and they're just sitting there replaying it as if they're just padding out the runtime because they didn't have any ideas for it. But I think where this movie actually really shines is I think the human cast is awesome. Now, I might be one of the few people who say this because I've read online a lot of people don't like the cast of Godzilla Raids Again, but I actually think their friendship is pretty organic, and it's very charming whenever Kobayashi specifically is on screen. I think he just exudes with charm, right? Like, he just has so much charm to him, and the way he interacts with the other characters, and the two bros, like the two best friends in the movies, like, they're homies, and you can really tell just watching it. So I really, really like the human aspect. Godzilla, for me, one of the biggest strengths of those movies is I love seeing the humans come together at the end, right? I love seeing the humans come together where you get like that classic Godzilla score, which, by the way, I did not mention this in my first review. I don't know how I didn't, but the music and score for that first Godzilla movie is revolutionary. It's one of the best scores, I think, in cinema history. So I just wanted to take some time in this video to point that out because somehow I didn't mention that in my original Godzilla review. But I really like the human aspect of it. That's some of my favorite parts of the Godzilla movies, is seeing the people come together and fight against him. And in this movie, it was awesome, right? Now, their plan to defeat Godzilla in this movie, they don't have an oxygen destroyer, but their plan is actually kind of interesting. They want to bury him alive on this island, which, first, I got to give credits for originality because I would have never thought of that idea, but burying him alive is actually pretty smart in my opinion. Now, the actual scene, in my opinion, is one of the weaker parts of the movie, which is what kind of holds this movie back. I think initially, the first like 2 minutes of the scene where all the planes are flying in and trying to bury Godzilla, it's pretty cool. But they bomb this mountain for what seems like 10 minutes. Now, it probably isn't exactly that long. It's probably like 5 or 6. But it goes on long enough to the point where you're just like, dude, are they not finished? Like, you think it finishes like 10 different times. Now, again, spoiler alert, but the death of Kobayashi, I think, is also a really great scene in this movie because you spend all this time, maybe not making him the main character, but he has great banter with the main character. And he's part of the main friend group. And then you have this really cute moment between him and one of the girls. And it like ups the stakes, and then when he actually dies, you're a lot more concerned about it because you had all these scenes of character growth and all these great character interactions. And this girl finds out he loves her, and he has this her picture, and it's just this great beautiful moment. And then you go into the fight with Godzilla, and then unfortunately he sacrifices his life, but it makes his sacrifice stand out that much more. It's not as impactful as Dr. Serizawa's, in my opinion, in the first Godzilla movie, but I think it's a pretty solid scene. Now, again, is this movie as good as the first Godzilla movie? No, in my opinion, it is not. However, is it a really good Godzilla movie that keeps up the themes and the mostly serious tone of the first movie? Yes, I really enjoyed it for that. The tone is great. The acting, in my opinion, is really good. The Godzilla scenes are fantastic. I like the scene with him in the water and the flares. There's a weird, convict escape scene that, kind of just plays out in the middle of a Godzilla attack. I mean, it's a reason why Godzilla attacks a certain area, but there's a couple scenes that just kind of don't mesh well with the rest of the movie. Again, I brought up the board scene earlier, but honestly, overall, I really enjoyed Godzilla Raids Again when I saw it. I was, very happy with what I saw. Now, again, not better than the first one, but if I was to rate it on Letterboxd, I think I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed that movie quite a bit. I mean, like I said, there's so many great scenes, but there's just a couple that slowly just kind of drag the movie out a little bit, whereas I feel like the movie could have been a little shorter, honestly. It's already a short movie, but you could trim some of the fat away and still have a pretty sizable experience with it. But all that being said, I really like Godzilla Raids Again. So I would love to hear what you guys think about Godzilla Raids Again down in the comment section below. I actually had a commenter on the last video bring up Shin Godzilla, which I have seen, and I love that movie. And we'll get to that in our timeline. I want to get through all these Toho movies first, which could take forever, right? I want to get at least one Godzilla review out per week. Now, that being said, here's an announcement. Next week, we'll be watching, or not watching, but reviewing Godzilla vs. King Kong, or King Kong vs. Godzilla, the original one from 1962, I believe. And I'm really excited to talk about it because I just watched it last night, and I got some things to say about it. But until that time, this is going to be the end of this video. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. Let me know what you think about Godzilla Raids Again down in the comments section below. Are you a fan of Godzilla Raids Again, or are you someone who's not as high on it? I would love to see either opinion because, again, if you don't like Godzilla Raids Again, I don't think your opinion is invalid. I think that's valuable information. I'd love to hear why you're not a fan of it, obviously, but everyone's entitled to their own opinion. I mean, Godzilla fans, we can all just be, kind to each other and respect each other's rankings, right? Some of us who like Raids Again are going to have it higher, and people that don't like it are going to have it lower, but that's totally fine. So I'm interested to see what you guys think down in the comments section below. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and, let me know what you thought about the video down in the comments section below. And then, are you excited for King Kong versus Godzilla next week? I know I am, but thank you guys so much for watching. I hope I see you in the next video, and I'm out.